beautiful ones. Thank you so much for joining me. I have to say, first of all, this is something I am really, really excited about. I understand this energy intuitively because Uranus is quite a player in my birth chart, and I will actually give you a little bit of personal information about myself so that you can help relate it to how it might affect you, because sometimes it's easier when you have examples, isn't it? But like I said, I'm so excited about this energy. The world is not going to be the same again after this. It just won't be. The next 7-8 years are going to change so much. We're going to see a complete revolution, a complete turnabout in the world about us. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about not the basic, but the general energy of Uranus moving into Taurus, and then I'm going to go on to the astrology, your astrology, and then I'm going to go on to the tarot. So if you do want to skip ahead, feel free to. I'll put a little timestamp up here so you'll know where to go to if you want to jump the general intro. But what I will say is that this introduction is definitely worth listening to because yes, it's great to know how things affect us personally, but this is a game changer. Uranus and Taurus is a game changer, and a lot of us astrologers have been looking forward to this for a really long time. So I made a lot of notes just to remind myself of things that I don't want to forget. So what is Uranus? Uranus is innovation. It is sudden change. Uranus is progressive, humanitarian. Okay, Uranus is not afraid to go outside of the box and go against the status quo. It's actually a disdain really for the status quo. It's that place in our chart where we just don't settle, where we just don't accept the norm. So it's always worth looking at which area of your chart Uranus rules. So for instance, throwing in a personal example, Uranus sits quite near to my IC, okay, quite near to my IC in my 4th house. So and it's in Sagittarius as well. So this sees me being very progressive and very, I rejected and was rejected by the family, the parental family quite a few times in numerous ways as a youngster. I'm happy to talk about this kind of stuff now because it doesn't affect me, and it's just part of a story that can help to educate others with. But for instance, I had separations from family, separations from home at a young age. I travelled around a lot at a very young age, and that's Uranus. It's unpredictable. Plus he was in Sagittarius, sign of travel and foreign culture. I was born in a country completely different to the one that I now live in. So this is Uranus: change, separation, shock, sudden departure, sudden opportunity. Just to elaborate on that example, so I my mum suddenly left when I was young, and then suddenly came back into my life one day. Just popped up on Facebook about 2.5 years ago. That's Uranus in your 4th house. That's that kind of story. That sudden crazy change that sometimes it can be heartbreaking, but ultimately it leads you to bigger growth, and then suddenly something can happen that's a wonderful surprise and opportunity. So this is Uranus, okay? So that's how it acted, in how it played out in my chart as a planet, and then in terms of where he rules, which house he rules, that will be more where you will feel that sense of wanting to rebel, wanting to go against the status quo. Another personal example, Uranus rules my 6th house. Your 6th house is about the day-to-day. It's about work. It's about the service that you give to others. Uranus is innovation, technology, also astrology. So and humanitarianism. So it's interesting, isn't it, that what I do, the service I want to give is about innovation. It's about progressive thinking. It's not the norm for people to study astrology. That's what I chose to study, and I wanted to do as a livelihood. And being my own boss, not having to answer to anyone else, that's very Uranian. That's the area in which I show that kind of progressive, slightly out of the box, maybe a little bit eccentric kind of point of view. So it's interesting to note where these things are in your chart, because it will give you a deeper understanding not only of yourself but of how this planet functions. So when he moves into Taurus, what is he saying? Let me just put this one down for a second. Actually, there was something else I wanted to talk about, so no, we'll go on to that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm getting excited. So when he moves into Taurus, what is he doing? So he's shaking up our foundation, he's shaking up our structure. He's shaking up our value system, our financial system. He's shaking up our material resources. And this would not be such a big deal if we were not so materially based. But we have been, haven't we? We've become a society that's become very, very concerned about how much money we have, how much wealth we have, how big our homes are, how flash we can be, how much have I got, how much can I keep. We're very obsessed with stability and security, and I think this is fantastic. I think this is a breath of fresh air, because the fact of the matter is the reality of life, of reality, okay, not the human construct of it, is that nothing is permanent, everything is changeable, and nothing is stable. The only thing you can trust in is that there will always be change. And in actual fact, putting our trust always in our resources, a sense of security because of the values that we have, the valuables that we have, is a false sense of security. Now I think what Uranus is going to do here is he's going to help liberate us from this earth-based, materialistic-based way of being, way of valuing things, and way of living as a society, which I think is going to be healthy. But for a lot of people it's going to be a shock, especially those who are very materialistic, who don't want this kind of, don't like change, and who are very much keeping up with the old guard. For them it will be hard. Now we're going to see changes in obviously the financial institutions. We are going to see changes in government, in maybe even the way that we're taxed. We can expect to see big changes. You know, at the same time, it's interesting because we've got we've got Saturn in Capricorn currently. And that rules, you know, Saturn, Capricorn, these are about skyscrapers. This is the big wigs. This is the guys right at the top, okay? All the big money men, the old boys club, all of that kind of thing. And what's interesting is there's going to be a lot of action. And at one point we're going to actually have a stellium with Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn and Ceres all in Capricorn, while Uranus is in Taurus. This is revolution. This is transformation of structures. This is completely seeing structures breaking down. We could see skyscrapers falling down. We could see, symbolically, you know, we could see, for instance, you know, if you think of like Trump Towers, you know, which really is a symbol of wealth, corporate, you could say corporate greed, a symbol of, you know, the haves versus the have-nots. We could see those kinds of structures due to earthquakes or natural disasters suddenly coming down, and that's very much a Uranus and Taurus thing, because it's a way, Uranus kind of goes, hey, I'm causing a revolution here, and it will do things very symbolically. So we can expect to see, especially I want you to watch out for the 14th, 15th and 16th. Uranus likes to enter with a bang. He likes to give us a big sign to let us know, right, I've changed signs. So expect to see something a little bit out of the ordinary, something perhaps shocking, whether it is an earthquake, a huge electrical storm, because Uranus is electrical energy. You know, expect to see that. And you know, it's going to be Uranus's entrance into Taurus, essentially. And if it doesn't come about that way, there may be some news relating to financial institutions, relating to cryptocurrency that comes out around that time. Even the way I'm talking, I can feel the energy. It's electric, it's charged. We're all going to feel this. Taurus is a feeling, sensual sign. He is about the five senses: what we taste, what we touch, what we smell, what we hear. What's the other sense? What? Taste, touch, smell, hearing. There's another one. Sight, that's the one. So yeah, he's about those things. So we're actually, a lot of us are not physical, especially if you're very in tune with your body, and if you're sensitive to the environment around you, if you're sensitive to anything like atmospheric pressure, you will feel this change. There will be a surge in the electricity in the air. And so what I would say to everybody is definitely make sure that you are getting enough rest, because this can cause anxiety, It can cause problems with sleep and insomnia, overthinking, stress, that kind of thing. Magnesium would be a brilliant thing for everybody to be taking at this point, because it will just chill that system down a bit, the central nervous system. It will chill it out a bit, and so you'll be able to kind of get your head together. I mean, loads of people are deficient in magnesium, so especially during this time, I'd recommend taking a supplement or a spray, which is even better, which you just spray it onto your body and it absorbs so much better. So we're looking at the unpredictable, electric, shocking quality of Uranus, which is also enlightening, by the way. It doesn't break down to just destroy, it breaks down in order to improve. This is what we have to understand with Uranus. It's about improvement and progression, and if something is not working anymore, if it's stagnant, then it's time for it to go, and Uranus will come along and it will break it down. And I, for one, am very relieved, because I think it's about time that this big boys club that's been running the world, and all of this corporate greed and this patriarchal society, which is so out of whack with where we are in terms of humanity and our consciousness, and it's so archaic, and it's just in the Jurassic period. It is time for that to have a revolution, and for those who have been trodden down to now be able to have a voice and to have their freedom and their liberation and their rights truly expressed and back. And so we're going to see women's rights coming to the fore. We're going to see anybody who has been in some way oppressed coming to the fore. So we're going to see, I mean, there's been a lot of racial tension, hasn't there, in America with the black community and the police. We're going to see an uprising in these people actually being able to make change that lasts a long time and is based on equality and fairness. And no longer will it be about, you know, the old boys club ruling the world and being able to put everybody in their place, which I think is much needed change. So expect to see a lot of transformation, revolution, and breakthrough, breaking free of things. We're going to see technological advances as well. We're going to see more and more people being interested in things like astrology, esotericism, more and more people wanting to looking into ways that we can help improve the physical body, because Taurus is very much about the physicality, science merging with technology, so that we kind of have this almost, we have technology that's a lot more, I want to say symbiotic, but there's another word for it, that's kind of more body-based technology to help improve our quality of life. We're going to be looking at technology that really works in tune with nature, because Taurus is about nature and the abundance of the earth. We're going to be looking at, do we value our planet? And if we do, how can we use our technology and our progression to help to rebalance the planet, and bring a sense of, you know, being at one with the planet, being a species that's in harmony with the planet back again. How can we do that? Out of chaos will come new ideas, forward advancement, improved living situations, but there may well be a sense of a balancing out, a toppling. Those who have a lot may find themselves with very little all of a sudden because of a crash in the stock markets. We don't know. It's so hard to predict because it is the unexpected, but history teaches us basically what Uranus does. Because when we look back, the last time that Uranus was in Taurus was from June 1934 to May 1942. Now, this was towards the end of the Second World War, and we had the Great Depression, and suddenly, you know, people were living off of rations, and they were needing food tokens, and we were looking at issues of war and human life, and how we value human life, how we value money, and all of these came to the fore. And history is going to repeat itself, not because I think we're going to end up in a world war, but because I think we're beyond that. I think we've learnt that lesson. We've learnt that physical. To me, that's a very lower. It's like a lower chakra, lower energy field lesson that was about physically going to war. Now, in order to reassess the value of human life and the value of money and currency, we don't have to go through that kind of trauma again, but we're going to be looking at it from a higher perspective, from a higher mind. We're going to be looking at the value of human life, and and money, and the way we use money may very well change. The way we invest is likely to change. The way we earn is likely to change. There may be sudden investments in that are about bringing people up, you know, from the breadline, from hand to mouth living. There may be sudden payouts to people who are in those situations. That's on the more optimistic end. At the same time, we could also see, you know, that we no longer use physical money by the end of this transit. That we don't use paper money, coin money at all by the end of this. Uranus through Taurus very much changes currency. So, you know, there was Uranus and Taurus is also associated with when we came away from using cows and such to barter with. So it changes the type of currency we have. So don't be surprised if 8 years' time we don't have a physical currency as such. Okay, so I personally feel like this is going to see a lot of people branching out in ways that are just very different. A lot of people saying, actually, I don't want a terraced house in the middle of the suburbs and to just have a 9 to 5. I wouldn't be surprised if people start building tree houses on small plots of land that they buy, or loads more people going off the grid, more people becoming nomadic. It's almost like we're going to get this sudden realization, which is already happening, we're already seeing it, but I think more on a global scale we're going to get this realization that, hang on a minute, just because that's the way it's always been done, just because for however long people have been living in houses and driving cars to work, who said I have to buy into that reality and that way of life? This is going to see a lot more people suddenly realizing they have the freedom to live how they choose to live. And more people will be living off of the land. More people will be, like I said, nomadic living or unusual ways of living. And it will be in line with their values. They're going to start saying, hang on a minute, I never wanted this. I never... You know, if you'd asked me when I was a kid what I would have loved the most, like to have lived in when I was younger, I would have told you it would have been a tree house in some huge oak tree in the middle of some forest somewhere. People are going to start doing that. Expect to see people rejecting the status quo in order and in favour of what marries up to their own values and their own value system, which I personally think is fantastic and I really love, and that is really what this is about. It's about setting people free, essentially. So in that sense, we're going to see individual expression in terms of people's value systems, people not being content to settle. And I mean, you know, one of the reasons I relate to this energy so much is, like I said, it's in my 4th house, and I've always been very anti, you know, why should I have to just do that typical thing that everybody does and you know, just settle down and get married young and have some kind of normal job. I've always been very always rejected that notion very much. I've always thought, no, I can live my life on my own terms. And I believe everyone should have the right to live their life on their own terms as long as they're not harming anyone. Well, this is this energy. And it's so nice that finally the world is catching up with me. Hi guys, it's good over here, isn't it? I jest. But no, seriously, because you find that people who are very Uranian are ahead of their time, and quite often they are outsiders. So this is going to see us being more accepting of, more open to, and wanting to follow the leadership of people who were once deemed as being odd or eccentric or outsiders, people who are into astrology, into esotericism, into mixing spirituality and science together. It's going to see us far more open to those progressive people, whereas we haven't been in the past. And the nice thing about this is, you know, there's a saying in the Bible, which is the first shall become last and last shall become first. I think in a sense, you know, the universe always balances things out, and those who once were outcast because of their progressive ideas are now going to start to be listened to and brought more into the fold. And we are seeing that already. Because we're going to be more interested in progression in terms of our values, and not just clinging to the old way of doing things out of fear. And Saturn is very much about fear. Saturn in Capricorn, you know, it's very much about fear. It's about climbing to the top of that corporate rat race and staying there and you know, being fierce about it. But there's a lot of fear involved with it. So what's really interesting as well, you know, one other thing I wanted to mention as well, just as another example, just I want you to, the reason I'm giving you personal examples is so that you can relate and you can apply it to yourself. So another example, nearly everybody in my family has rejected their birth name in favour of their middle name, or in favour of a completely different name. So that to me is Uranus in the 4th house. It's this rejection of my heritage, or rejection, not that I feel I've rejected my heritage, but it's a rejection of, it's a refusal to be impressed upon by my heritage, by the parental, you know, unit. So that's one thing I've always found very interesting, you know, that my dad, my stepmother, my sister, some of my nieces and nephews all use different names to the ones they were given, or they have very unusual names, naturally. I use my middle name rather than my first name. So it's that kind of thing, you know, this kind of rejection of things, and saying, no, actually, I'm going to do it my way. So, what else have we got? I will get on, I promise I'm going to get on to your astrology in a minute, but I'm so passionate about this, and I think it's important that we understand it. So we have to know this transit is going to be going on until about, I mean, we're looking at about 2026, okay? We might very well see, in fact, I'm pretty certain we're going to see a new king established in Britain. We're going to see a new monarchy. It may well be William. So this is once again Uranus overthrowing, in a sense. So this is a new king. This also speaks of Saturn and Capricorn as well. If we look back at where Uranus has been in Aries, and it's interesting to note that whilst he's been in Aries, it's been very much about the self and technology. So, you know, we've been obsessed, you know, for the past 8 years with things like selfies, Instagram, Facebook, and how I appear to the world, using technology to make myself appear better, to promote myself to the world, to allow it to reach out to different people. You know, we've also seen a lot of self-starters, self-starting businesses, entrepreneurship. We've seen a lot of self-promotion going on. Tony Robbins, people like that have become huge. Abraham Hicks has become bigger than ever, you know, and all this talk about self-belief and I am talk, you know. So we've seen this new wave of spirituality and technology kind of coming into the area and the house of the self. So now he's going to be going into, like I said, that second house of Taurus, and we're going to see so much change, and we're going to see new light, and we're going to get a wake-up call in terms of these areas of life, our value system, our abundance, our income, our also, you know, don't forget, Taurus also rules your sense of, it's about your self-esteem. So, you know, reevaluating your own self-esteem. So, that was a rather long intro, but I hope you enjoyed it, and it's definitely worth listening to. You know, this is a game changer, and this is why it's such a special time to be around. It's an amazing time to exist, because the world is changing faster than it ever has done before, and that tells us that humanity is speeding up as a species in its consciousness, in its evolution. We are evolving so fast, and this is only going to add to that. And as a result, the earth, we move with the earth evolves with us, and she responds, sorry about that fly, she responds to our energy as we do her. And the more that we enlighten, the quicker that we evolve, the more the earth is able to heal and come into balance again as well. So don't be surprised if there are things like volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, unusual activity with Mother Earth, and it's her adjusting to this Uranian energy too, because it's going to be miraculous, but it's also going to be shocking. And although some of the things that may happen to you on a personal level, or even out there in the world, may at first seem awful or scary, they will also be things that in the long run have to happen for the greater good. And Uranus will not take away anything that is right, that is true, that is valuable, but he will destroy that which no longer is working. Okay, now on to Uranus in your sign, and I'm going to do the astrology first, and then we're going to go on to the tarot. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching this intro. Hello Taurus. So Uranus is moving into your sign, or he has moved into your sign, depending on when you're watching this. And what does this all mean? So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for all of us, but especially for you guys, and especially if you've got Taurus as your rising sign. And this means that Uranus is hitting on one of your angular houses. He's hitting on your first house. What happens when a planet hits on one of our angular houses is it actually shakes up and it reverberates all throughout the chart, because when you think about the birth chart, it's a cross like this, right, if you've ever seen one. And each side of the cross represents, in a sense, the 4 pillars of our life. So one being the self, the other being the relationships we have, the third being, oh sorry, rather, that's not in numerical order, but anyway, the other one being our home, our past, our family, and the other one being our future, what we do out there in the world, the 4 pillars of our life. And they have so many other different layers and deeper layers as well. So this for you is actually going to reverberate. For those of you who are Taurus rising, it's going to you're going to feel the waves go through your entire life. And even for those of you who aren't, it's still going to have a similar effect. But obviously, if Taurus is your rising sign, then it's really going to have a massive impact on you. So what is this doing? Taurus, what is this doing? It is essentially shaking you up, Taurus. It is giving you, it's giving you a bit of a rattle, really. And anything you've been carrying, anything that's been stuck, anything that no longer serves you, it's going to be time for that to be reviewed. Now, what Uranus does is he's the awakener, he's the light bringer, okay? So he was, when we think of the pantheon of the gods, he was the one that brought, he was Prometheus, he's also known as Prometheus, and he brought wisdom, the light of wisdom to mankind, and angered the other gods as a result. So he's the enlightener, he's the shaker-upper, he doesn't care. When you think about that story as well, you know, Uranus doesn't care what everyone else thinks. Uranus doesn't care whether the gods agreed or not. He still brought the light to mankind. So this is what Uranus is about. He's rebellious, he's progressive, he's technological, he is genius, he is, he goes against the status quo, he shakes things up, he is the unexpected, and he is surprises. So what you're going to feel, Taurus, is a need and a desire to break free. Now if Taurus is your moon sign, then it's going to be a need for emotional freedom in a big way. Relationships will go through a lot of change, and this could see you suddenly leaving a relationship, especially if it hasn't been working for a long time. If this is your sun sign, then this is going to be about your self-expression, your energy drive, how you present yourself, also how your ego operates, you know, and it will start to operate slightly differently. If it's your rising sign, it's going to affect your appearance, it's going to affect your relationships and how you present yourself to others. It's going to have a fundamental effect on your entire life, like I said earlier, because it will be hitting that first house cusp. But essentially what you're wanting is you're wanting a truer form of self-expression. You don't want to be held in anymore, and you don't want to be hemmed in by anything or anyone. Now this can see some of you, you know, this could be a time when people who've lived at home for a long time or all their lives suddenly leave home. This could see you surprising people by doing things that are shocking or different, but that speak to the truth of you. If there's any part of you that you've been holding back, that you haven't been showing to the world, Taurus, this is going to want to come out. You're no longer going to be content with just going along with things and not upsetting the apple cart. You will rock the boat, especially if you're feeling frustrated in any sort of sense, because Uranus, with it brings a sense of frustration. Anywhere where we felt like we are restricted, where we are oppressed, where we are, where we don't have the freedom that we want. This is where we see people acting out or making huge changes. Now the thing with this is great, it's progressive. Uranus speeds things up, okay? When we think of Saturn, Saturn slows things down, Uranus speeds things up. So it's going to be speeding you up, whether it's on an emotional level, whether it's on an energy, an ego level, an expression level, whether it's on, well, yeah, whatever it is, it's going to be speeding things up and bringing sudden, quick surprises and change and opportunity too. And there could be genius ideas that you come up with at this time. You know, if you do come up with interesting business plans or business ideas, write them down, especially if they're progressive. I mean, this could be a time when, you know, you could see yourself in the works of becoming the next Elon Musk, you know, or Mark Zuckerberg, someone like that, if that's who you want to be, if that's your thing. But with this sense of frustration, with this quickening in energy, with this desire to break free, there is a sense of frustration, and what can happen is sometimes we can throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so what you want to be aware of, Taurus, is not making changes that are just big sweeping changes, and not thinking about the ramifications. On some level, you are going to do this, and you have to do it, and it's part of your path, and it's part of your journey. But especially where it comes to relationships, this could see you want to break free of certain people, certain groups, certain relationships. Just make sure that you're kind of sure about it. If you have been wanting to get out of a relationship for a really long time, or get out of a situation for a really long time, and suddenly an opportunity presents itself for you to do that, and it looks like a good opportunity, go for it. But if this is a sudden kind of, you wake up one morning and you're like, I don't know if I want to be in this relationship, take your time and figure it out, please, rather than just walking out the door. Okay, but if there's been an impending sense of frustration with anything in your life that was going on beforehand, before this transit, now is the time where you can see these things opportunities start to be presented around these things, for you to break free, for you to be outside the box. This is a great time for you to think outside the box. Some of you might start dressing very differently, dye your hair a different colour, presenting yourself very differently. You might be shocking as well in your behaviour, especially to those around you. It could see you, the thing is with Uranus is it is hard to actually predict, because he is the unexpected. That's the beauty of him. He's kind of like a bit of a trickster to a certain extent. But what you're going to, somebody's about to knock on my door. But what you're going to see with this is that there will be a rebelliousness, and you're not going to care so much about the opinions of others. You're going to want to do your thing. You're going to want to express yourself as you truly are. And what the purpose of this is, what Uranus is trying to do for all of us, he wants to liberate us. Liberate us from things, whether it's a mentality, whether it's a way of being, whether it's a habit. Liberate us from things that are no longer serving us. Ultimately, what Uranus seeks is to liberate us. He is the liberator. So this doesn't mean that the things that you love and that you value are suddenly going to disappear, because Uranus, does place value on the things that are working for you. But the things that you don't value, the things that aren't working, there may even be things that you think you value that will fall away at this time. And you might realise after the fact that actually you weren't holding on to that thing because you actually really liked it or loved it or valued it. That was more out of sense of fear. Uranus is going to shake this up. This Uranus is going to shake up anything that doesn't work. It could see you wanting to align with people who are quite different to people that you've known before. People who are far more philosophical, maybe spiritual, people who are a little bit outside of the box. Think people like me, astrologers, right? Astrologers, artists, people who are perhaps somewhat on the fringes of, normal society. So this could see you suddenly expanding your worldview. It could see you being interested in esotericism. What I will say for this energy is, and this doesn't matter whether you're sun, moon or rising, Uranus is electric. He's electric, he's quick, he's bam, 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 he's lightning storms. So what I want for you to do is, when you think about lightning has to ground, okay, to have an impact. So to work with this energy, I would like you to start, introducing ways in which you can voluntarily shake up your own life. So if there's something you're dissatisfied with, say you want more freedom in your life, you want to travel, do something simple like take a different route to work. And I know that sounds silly, but bring in, because what you're doing is you're sending the universe a message by doing this. You're saying, I acknowledge that there is this energy present going on now in this area of my life, and rather than allowing it to, knock me sideways or blindside me, I acknowledge it and I'm bringing it in. And when the universe sees, when it feels vibrationally that you are opening up a channel for it to come in, what happens is then the flow is so much easier. But when your channels aren't open, you get hard impacts, don't you? So if you want more freedom, for instance, take a different route to work. Start exploring your neighbourhood or going for walks where you haven't been, where you've never been before in your local area. Bring in that sense of freedom in that way. If you want new love, then start doing random acts of kindness for people. Acknowledge the things that you want more freedom in, that you want liberation in, and change up the energy in your life just in little ways. And what you're doing is you're introducing and acknowledging this Uranian energy so that it doesn't have to hit you as hard. And you're saying, yes, I am flexible. Also, because like I mentioned just now, went off on a bit of a tangent, but it needs something to ground to. Practices like yoga would be really, really good. Practices like yoga, things like walking barefoot on earth and on the sand, because you'll be having a lot of this you'll be having a lot of this electric energy flowing through you and a lot of nervous system activation. So it's important that that is grounded in Mother Earth and that you're not just becoming this bag of nerves who starts to sound like a bit of a crazy person after a while. Okay, so those would be my recommendations to you. But certainly this can see your world view changing, could see your view of yourself changing, could see you becoming far more liberated, far more free, and just kind of I just got a vision in my head actually. I think I must have seen it off some comedy or something. I think I must have. Oh, it's a comedian, South African comedian. Oh, what's his name? I nearly had it then. Great guy. Noel, I want to say Noel somebody. And there's this bit where he's talking about his mother dating, this is so apt, here we go. His mother dating his father because he's mixed race and it was in the time of apartheid. That, she was black, he was white. That, stereotypical Uranian, I don't care, going against the grain, going against what the norm is, that's Uranus energy. That is Uranus energy, that is I don't care, I don't give a shit. And the vision that I had was just, because it's the way he impersonates her, and you just imagine her like throwing her clothes and going, I don't care. And silly, I know, but it's funny in my head. But that's what it is, it's about progression, you know? Think about apartheid, think about, I mean, my parents were the same, my mum's also black, my dad was white, and they were together in the time of the apartheid when it was not acceptable for blacks to be with whites. But they were progressive, they didn't care. This is what you're going to be like. This could see some of you forming relationships with people who are very different to you, or different to who you've dated before, or having a relationship with somebody who everyone else goes, oh my gosh, wow, wasn't expecting that, didn't see that coming. They could be a different culture, they could be much older, they could be much younger, they could be just something completely different. And it might take other people by surprise, but for you it's going to feel right, and you're going to be like, oh, I like this is a bit of liberation. I'm having it. So, I really like this energy. Yes, there may be things that happen that on the face of it look a bit negative, or that might be shocking and overwhelming and might take time to adjust to, but just know that the hand of the universe, the guiding hand of the universe is at play here, and that everything, all that is transpiring is for your greater good. So the key is to be flexible, Taurus. Be flexible. You are fixed earth, so you're going to learn the lessons of flexibility during this transit, and for those who are more rigid, for those who really hate change and cannot stand it, I'm sorry to say, but you are going to have a very tough time if you refuse change, if you refuse the progression that you're being asked to make right now. It will hit you even harder. Like I said, best to open up those channels, acknowledge and bring it in willingly and voluntarily, than to have to be hit around the head with a brick. You know what I mean? You don't want that. So that is how you can expect to see it affect you. It's going to be a really, really interesting transit for all of us. I'm really excited to get into your tarot now, so let's get on with that, Taurus. Taurus, now we are on to your tarot portion of the reading. I pulled these cards before recording just because I wanted to be able to absorb the energy and soak it up and make sense of it myself before I started talking to you guys about it. I've done an unusual layout here. It's representative of the zodiac wheel. And in it I've emphasized your first house, where Uranus will be, your 9th house, which is where Saturn will be, and I've included Saturn because Saturn is often the lessons that we need to learn, and he's going to be playing off of Uranus a lot during these next 7-8 years, so he's of importance. And because of the fact that it is in your sign, so for every other sign I'll be able to pull 3 houses, one which is their sign, one where Uranus is, and one where Saturn is, but because of the fact that Uranus is in your sign, I could have just left it as those two, but I thought I'd pull what's conscious and what's unconscious within you. And these cards here are your challenges, the themes of your challenges, and this here is what can help you if you bring it into your consciousness, you know, what you can use to your will, to your advantage. And of course I've pulled an overarching advice card, which I love, Deep Freeze, which makes so much sense to me. Okay, Taurus, let's get into it. So what I'm seeing here is really, it's great. I love the fact that you've shown up in your own reading. We've got the Hierophant here, which is your card. You've shown up in your own reading and you've shown up upright, which is great. We have a lot of emotional energy. We have a lot of cup energy, and a lot of it is in the reversal. And what we're seeing here, so I feel like a lot of you, as this transit begins, yeah, I mean, it couldn't be more clear, could it? There is a need to break free. So the Ace of Cups upright is about an emotional fresh start, an emotional opportunity, but in reverse it's saying to us either there's a blockage of emotion or we are allowing our emotions to run riot. So there's a need for emotional freedom which isn't being satisfied here, and I can see that this is what's at the core. All of the center cards here are at the core of the matter. And I can see that this is what's at the core of the matter here. And here we're talking about sevens, relationships as well. You're wanting to break free of perceptions of you, limiting perceptions and illusions. You believe, I think you're going to be looking around at this period of time, looking around you, looking at the people who you know, who you line yourself with. This is a card of illusions. Being careful to pick from the fantasies, you know, what is real, what is not, what is good for you, what is not. And on the reversal, it's saying to me that you are saying, I no longer want to have projections put upon me by other people. I do not want people to project their ideas or their illusions onto me. I am past that. I no longer need to play that role. And I feel this sense of imbalance and disharmony with that kind of thing going on, because we have this so often, don't we, where people project their idea of us onto us. And quite often you see this when you return home, especially as an adult. You go home and all of a sudden you're placed in that box, and you know your parents or whoever it is expects you to behave a certain way. Before you know it, you're behaving that way, not because it's you, but just because it's almost like the energetic signature is still there and it's hard to break out of it. But you're saying, I no longer you're saying it to the extent that I threw the card away. But you're saying, I no longer want to be, wait, gosh, am I drunk? I no longer want to be a part of this illusion. I don't want people to project their ideas, their fantasies onto me. I don't want to be hemmed in, to be boxed in. I want to be seen clearly for where I am, because this feeling is creating disharmony for me, disharmony in my relationships. Now, for those of you who this isn't about relationships, this could just be disharmony with your inner self. You're saying, I don't want to hold back anymore. This is very Uranus and Taurus, isn't it, in your sign? I don't want to hold back anymore. I want to be seen for who I really am. I want to be seen for the reality and truth of who I am, so that I can have a sense of internal balance, so I can have a sense of completion and wholeness, which is what happens when we get the masculine meeting the feminine on an equal level. You can see I drew your symbols there on my hand before I did these readings to kind of channel your energy. So you're saying that you want that balance, you want that internal balance, and for some of you this is looking like wanting to walk away from a relationship, feeling stifled, feeling stuck, feeling suffocated, feeling like you've just had enough. And I feel like for a lot of you it is a romantic relationship, that you're conscious of the fact that its ties are no longer positive. It seems like they are more negative than anything else. Now, some of you will be looking at somebody possibly actually having an affair. It could be yourself, it could be the partner, but there is a possibility when I see the Ace of Cups, the Devil, the Ace of Cups in reverse, and the Three of Cups as well. You know, we're looking at, well, we'll get deeper into it, but we're looking at a possible affair, you or the other person. I'm sensing more that it's more likely to be the other person. And that could be what we're seeing here. For some of you, you're dealing with the fallout from an affair and a possible breakup in relationship. For others of you, this is just a sense of wanting personal freedom. And I feel like part of the reason you want personal freedom is because you want to meet somebody who is on your level, or you want to meet people, you want to unify with people who are a true reflection of who you truly feel yourself to be. And so you feel like the only way that you can do that is to take off this mask, take off these perceptions that have been placed upon you, these expectations that have been placed upon you, and shed them free so that you can show yourself bare and naked as you truly are and attract others who are just like you. You know, it's a sense of wanting to shed this skin. So this is what's going on in the consciousness. Now in the unconscious, what's interesting here is you're showing up as, you know, upright, which I like, which is saying to me that you will be aware of this process. It's telling me, Taurus, that you will be aware of what's going on. It's not like, how can I put it? So say something happens, say that you've been in a relationship for a long time, it hasn't been happy, and during this transit, you suddenly get a surprise, you find out your partner's been cheating on you. This kind of indication of the Hierophant here says to me that yes, it might take you by surprise, but there will be the sense of you will hold yourself well, and it will almost be this kind of, I understand that this had to play out, and in actual fact this could be for the greater good. So it's almost like you're in this kind of detached, seeing the bigger picture and side of things, and you know, you're looking at your place in the world as it relates to your value systems, as it relates to the people who, once again, look at you, look up to you. You know, we've got people looking at him here. How am I seen? Am I truly seen for who I am? You want to be, you are a rock, you are a source of stability, Taurus. That is in your nature. But you want to be, I feel, how can I put it? I feel Taurus is going to want truth. You want, how can I put it? It's like, you want the truth of your strength to be known. You don't want it to be something that is projected upon you. And now this could happen by, you might have your strength tested because of a relationship breakup, because of a family breakup or something like that. Perhaps someone in the family has an affair and it splits apart the family. I'm sorry to keep on mentioning affairs, it's not going to be the case for all of you. But certainly there's this sense of wanting to be seen as me, and you show up upright and you're saying, I know who I am, I know what I feel inside, I know what I value, and I stand strong in that, and I know others can rely on me and trust me, but I don't want them to anymore place these illusions or expectations upon me that have nothing to do with me. I want to break free of this because I want to have honest and open and healthy relationships. I want emotional freedom. And this, to me, the Emperor in reverse is, you know, this is excessive control, this is strictness, this is domineering. Now, I feel like this is what you're feeling. So isn't it so interesting? It's like this is a rebellion from this domineering stuff that's going on. So some of you could be in a relationship with someone who you're finding quite domineering, who is strict, who is quite controlling, and that may actually be what tempts you to want to be seen for who you truly are, for being, and makes you want to express yourself properly. And that could be what leads you perhaps into a relationship with somebody else, possibly, where it becomes three as a crowd, you know. For those of you who are in a relationship and it doesn't pertain to you like that, this is literally as clear as day saying, I want freedom from control, I want freedom from the expectations of others, and I don't care about the sacrifices I have to make. I want to throw it all out of the window so that I can be and show up as who I am. This is the only upright card here in the consciousness and unconscious, which tells me that the most important thing for you right now is to be expressing as you truly are. Now, for some of you, in order to express as you truly feel you are, you're going to have some big shake-up happen. There may be something crazy that happens with a family, or something that happens with your higher education, or it could be that somebody comes into your life. Moving on to the 9th house now, where Saturn is, right? So and let's not forget that in some ways, you know, Saturn is associated with the Emperor, and in reverse, you know, this is rigidity, this is control. So what I'm seeing is this breaking free, wanting to break free of the expectations of others, of illusions, of and perhaps an unhealthy relationship, in which you've been together for some time and you're bound, and frustration is mounting, and either you've had an affair, they've had an affair, or maybe there's a temptation for you to want to be seen for who you truly are by somebody else. But what I'm also seeing is that there could be, I'm feeling this energy of, I'm going to read this two ways. So I'm feeling this energy of somebody coming in who is unlike what you've known before, who actually offers a sense of spiritual guidance, whether or not they're spiritual, but somebody who could be a helping hand to you. Now, I feel like this person will either be foreign, a different culture, they might be, this could be they might be like studying law, they could be very learned, they could be in university, it could be through university or teachers or some sort of guru. But there's somebody who comes along and I feel is going to help ease you through this process that you're going through, because my intuition is telling me that this person sees you for who you truly are. Now don't be surprised if they're a Cancer, Scorpio or Pisces, or if they just have a lot of water, intuitive, psychic energy, and are quite strong but stable, and they presence in that things can happen around them and yet it doesn't sway them too much. This person, to me, the High Priestess and the Hierophant, are almost two sides of the same coin. If you look, they both sit between pillars. Now they both hold knowledge, they both hold knowledge, they both hold secrets, they both can be relied upon. Now one is the more masculine energy, one is the more feminine energy. Now this is talking about you coming into balance with yourself and saying you need to use your intuition to guide you through this process over the next 7-8 years. Try not to make emotional decisions that are rash, because I can see that possibly happening with you, Taurus, with all of this emotional energy that's in reverse. I can see perhaps emotions being, you know, words being spoken and emotions flying all over the place. This is saying calm, use your calm and use your intuition to guide you, and perhaps even go slow, you know. You have knowledge, you have strength within you. This is a balance of masculine and feminine forces, and I feel like another part of this message is that Uranus transiting your sign is doing so that he can balance out your divine masculine and feminine energy, so it can wash away any rigidity that is stuck, any aggressiveness, any emotional blockage, and also at the same time wash away any feminine energies that aren't serving you anymore, such as passivity or what's the word? Acquiescing to people's requests, constantly putting others before yourself, self-sacrifice to the point of self-sabotage. Okay, it's asking you to step into the strong version of divine masculine and feminine. I love that these two cards are upright. It is perfect. Now this tells me that this is what's going on with you on an internal level. It also tells me that there's somebody who you, like I said, you may join with, and throughout all of the chaos that may at times seem to be going on, it will feel, I feel, for those of you who this ends up being a partner, it will feel as though the world is just going crazy around you, and the two of you are just sat in the middle, and you are pillars of strength. You understand each other. You are kind of, like I said, two sides of the same coin, and you stand strong. And in a way, and I feel like this could be a very fated attraction, a very fated relationship between you and this person. And I feel like this person could potentially open up your perspective of life. She or he could make you far more spiritual, far more open-minded. Possibly might take you traveling, make you see more of the world, whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally, to explore yourself too. This person's going to help open you up, and I feel like this could be a romance that lasts a very long time. Because the things that you once knew are falling away, they are changing, and Knight of Pentacles in reverse, which is also associated with you, Taurus, it's saying to me that the plans you have, the plans you thought you had, they're going to go out the window. I'm sorry, but they are. The plans you thought you had, or what you thought would happen, is going to change drastically. We're talking about your 9th house here. Saturn is there, right? Saturn is there, Pluto is there. Something's being transformed, and it's either your perspective of the world, your understanding of life, and the mysteries of the universe. If you've never thought about it before, you're going to start thinking about these kinds of things. You're going to start opening yourself up to stuff like law of attraction and maybe quantum fields and all of this kinds of stuff. You might start thinking about that, but at the same time, this also says your plans are going to change, and it could be to do with this person, but your plans are going to change because so much about you is in a transformative state and wants to break free. You cannot rely on the plans that you made 3-4 years ago to still be a fit to you now. You are becoming someone very new and very changed. So the plans that were once there, that seem to be working out well, now you're not going to be able to rely on them anymore, because it's going to be a time for a fresh start. Now, whether that's because you've broken up with somebody, or you're going to be breaking up with somebody, or the family falls apart, whether that's because you get offered an amazing opportunity, or you'll fall in love with the person of your dreams, it's not necessarily all bad, but I certainly see that it's going to be, I feel like what's going to trigger you is going to be, it's going to be an emotional trigger. I feel like you're going to get triggered by perhaps a person, triggered by love on some level. It's going to be an emotional trigger that sees you wanting to break free, to express, to go off on a different path. This could see some of you who've been mums, stay-at-home mums for years, suddenly just saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to work. I want to go after a career. I need more freedom. I need to express myself. I'm not just being the support in the background. I've never really been happy with that, you know, all this kind of stuff. But bear in mind that you have to allow, because there's going to be this feeling of restlessness, it'd be very easy to just kind of, like I said, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Bear in mind that you have to have the idea, allow it to gestate and allow it to grow before just setting off on a new idea. So I want you to plan properly, because this in reverse tells me that perhaps you may not plan properly and you might just rush off into something, so just try and, with this increasing sense of internal need for freedom and frustration, but yet at the same time excitement, this should see you feeling quite enthusiastic in some ways as well. There may be a lack of planning and foresight as it does come to your future. So you're going to have to change your goals. You're going to have to change your plans and adjust them slightly. And I want you to make long-range plans that are flexible. Okay, flexibility is one of the key words. So what are your challenges? So I see here that the challenges are getting on the same page as other people can be an issue. So we've got twos that come up here quite a bit, right? We've got pairings going on here. Pairings, right? Two. So what we're seeing here is, this is, in a sense, I feel like, how can I put this? If you are rigid, I've said this numerous times already, but if you are rigid, Taurus, this is really not going to work. And I feel like there will be some of you who will try to stick to the old plans that you had. You know, whether it's that you're not in love with your partner anymore and you can feel it and it just doesn't feel right, but you refuse to acknowledge it. And you're kind of like going, okay, yeah, we're going to buy that house in a year's time and do that. Trying to stick to the plans that you made when you were a different person to who you are now is not going to work for you. I cannot emphasize this enough. There are some of you who will have to learn this the hard way, unfortunately. And I feel like the reason why some of you might have to learn it the hard way is because your sense of security might depend on maintaining the status quo, right? Your sense of financial security might depend on maintaining the status quo. And so you're hesitant to change your plans. You're hesitant to walk away. You're hesitant to be flexible because you feel like you might lose your security. But the problem is, if you're not flexible and if you don't run with this energy, you will see yourself ultimately getting left out in the cold, so that you have to begin again regardless. This can be avoided, Taurus, if you are conscious of what is going on. And what is going on is a tie to something that no longer serves you. For some of you, we are seriously talking about a relationship with jealousy, envy, darkness, could be cheating, infidelity, you know. For some of you, this could also be just and not a refusal to acknowledge your own value as well, you know, a refusal to acknowledge your own value and not allowing yourself to transform and grow and shift. And as a result, having to have everything fall down around you so that you're left out in the cold, so that you have to kind of start again. Because, you know, what you can bring into this experience is, you know what you want ultimately, Taurus. You want it all. You want the 10 cups. You want the happy family. You want the security. A lot of this is to do with your relationships and love, I feel. And that's what you ultimately want. But I want you to look back on times when you've refused to walk away, times when you've refused to let go of something, times when you've been too rigid. Because if you look at past experiences, this is what I feel like can serve you. If you look at past experiences where you've been too rigid, where you've been inflexible, where you haven't learnt from what has happened, you know, when you kind of, I want you to learn from the dark side. Learn from the darkness you've already experienced in life. That's what I feel like the devil is saying. The devil is saying to me here, you know, you, like all of us, have experienced light and dark in life. And it doesn't matter what level of darkness you've experienced. It doesn't matter how bad it was. But what happens with it is we gain wisdom. And we have to carry that wisdom with us. And I feel like the way that you can traverse this transit is to carry the wisdom of pain you've been through, wisdom of darkness you've been through with you, so that you can remember, so that it reminds you to be able to be flexible, to cut the cords before things have to get any worse. It's almost like it gives you, you know, not 20/20 vision, it gives you a slightly clairvoyant vision. People who've been through a lot of pain and suffering are often when they heal and as they grow and they gain wisdom, they're often very good at being able to spot a potentially destructive situation way before they have to get heavily involved in it. And that's the beauty of it. They gain this wisdom and they're able to once they've gained that wisdom and integrated the lessons, they're able to kind of flow and avoid potentially destructive and dangerous situations, because they're so sensitively attuned from that wisdom and from their experience to these situations that they can spot it a mile off. And this is what I'm asking you to do. So, you know, you want freedom, yes, you want liberation, you want change, you want emotional freedom, you want to align with somebody and with people. But I'm seeing a lot of some of you are going to find the love of your life, I swear. And some of you are going to find a huge deepening of your spirituality, and you're going to see yourself as completely different. Whereas maybe perhaps once you weren't spiritual, now you completely are. But what I want you to do is, in order to avoid the pain that of inflexibility and rigidity, remember the suffering that you've endured in the past, that's been tied to hanging on to things for too long. Okay, and this wisdom will help you to not have to go down that path of clinging on to something until it completely crumbles. You'll be able to let go more like sooner if you remember the wisdom of the past. What I love here is we pulled this card from the Colette Baron Reid deck, and this one is called Deep Freeze. And I'm going to read her little message, which basically says, everything has its season. Now is the time to put activity on hold whilst you rest. And I love that, because there's so much going on. And what did I say? In the June monthlies, I mentioned how now's not the time to push forward. And this year, I'm talking about 2018, we've got all these planets retrograde for a few months. So it's not the time to be pushing forward. This is a time to be going within. Let's read the whole thing to you. The cold winter beckons you to slow down and put a freeze on things that are not ready yet to bloom. It's time for regeneration and hibernation. Forgo ambitious activity. A pregnant pause allows ideas to gestate, projects to shift and change, and relationships to go through a dreamy state of being, not going anywhere, not needing to. This is also a time to put all your arguments on ice. Nothing beneficial will come from any of them. Self-care is the most important activity now, so reflect, read a good book, or get a massage, rest and dream. And I think this is right, because I think there's so much going on that it's just got to be internalized, right? So, you know, these are the overarching themes that we're going to see now playing out over the next 7-8 years, Taurus. So we already knew you'd be seeking more freedom, but certainly it seems like it's coming up strong that it's not so much that it's financial freedom you want emotional freedom. You want emotional freedom, you want self-expressive freedom, you want to be able to, you want to be able to express as you truly are, emotionally, creatively, as a spiritual being. Right, so just to finish off this reading, Taurus, this is a different day that I'm completing this on, because for some reason that day, you have no idea how many times I tried to finish your tarot reading and it just wouldn't happen. So I wanted to just wrap some things up, basically. What you have to picture, and what it will be necessary for you to bear in mind and hear, is that there's a new awareness coming into your being. Okay, you are going to be getting a deeper understanding of yourself and a deeper recognition of who you truly are. And this will be a changing process. There will be more than likely events that are triggered in your life, which might be rather unusual, but which are causing you to open up to a deeper understanding of self, okay? Deeper comprehension of who you truly are and what is at the core of you and what is in your spirit. As I said, you may find that you are alienating people at times, but this is part of a larger process, and it's good to think big picture, okay? It's good to think big picture and understand that what you're going through essentially is a spiritual process, you know, one in which your awareness is being increased, your awareness and understanding of self and knowledge of self is being increased. So this should be a real period of growth, growth that at times is quite spontaneous, okay, but nonetheless colourful growth, you know, and intriguing and inspiring, and something that it will be a period in your life which you will look back on, and definitely, I imagine that in the larger scheme of things, in the big picture, when you reflect and when you you go back to this time of your life, you'll probably
you'll be able to see how it was such an integral part of you expressing yourself and becoming who you truly are, deeper on the inside. So I hope that that was of some service to you guys. And like, you know, I said in the Aries reading, I'm not giving specific outcomes. We're talking themes here. We're talking about archetypes, archetypal energy, because this is such a long period of time and there are so many of you who will be watching this. It's important that I am broad, but that I also pull in the themes that will be coming up in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, okay? So there may be times when something happens and suddenly, you know, it will ring a bell for you and you'll think back to this reading, you know, it'll be somehow, you'll be reminded and triggered, and it's worth coming back just to think about the themes. But certainly partnership and a much deeper recognition of self is present, and plans may well change as a result of who you're becoming. Lovely Taurus, thank you so much for watching me, guys, and I hope you enjoy this transit, long as it is.